We'll begin with the lone pine. It was a particularly nasty battle in Gallipoli where Australians were thrown in as a diversion to allow a British expeditionary force to land further down the peninsula, which they did, but then rather than taking advantage of the surprise they'd achieved and turning inland to cut off the Turks, they stopped and had a cup of tea, and by the time they were ready to move on, the Turks had reinforced and the sacrifice at Lone Pine was wasted. And that is a metaphor for most of the First World War. Like, subscribe and comment. I think we forget just how the world has changed in the last 150 odd years. This garden commemorates the short lives of many unnamed children. That's got to tell you something. And the memorial I'll show you in a minute was created by Keith Smith and donated by the penguin community back in 2018. It stands above this, on the top of this post. It's a whole globe made up of children's stick figures. Not all the children were unnamed, but there was an awful lot of kids died. Now this is a memorial to Lloyd Robinson, who was apparently an historian. His good lady wife had this sculpture done. Now the sculptor points out that there's an awful lot of work gone into this. I'm not sure where, but it's supposed to be an homage to his historical roots as an Englishman and as someone who was excited by Stonehenge. Well, there you go. These old cemeteries are quite painful at times. There's an awful lot of these children back before polio and all the other vaccines we've got. Who knows what she passed from, but she did. I'm sure all these loss of children affected people. You got John Thomas there, 1877 to 1955. Alice from 1880 to 1971. Kathleen, 1908 to 84. But above is Jessica, 1913 to 1918. Another 5-year-old gone. And without being too depressing, here's another one, 13 months. It was a different time. Give you some idea of the scope of the place. Penguin's a small town, really. There's a lot of interesting graves here. There's another one of these kiddies' graves. Age 1 year and 3 months, I think that says. A little bit sad that too, because we had a lot of prisoners of war after Singapore and Greece and Crete. So close to the end of the war too, and only 28. And you'd be very surprised if this didn't happen here. Every town in Australia had this happening. You see James Owens passed away 1897, but underneath was Leslie John Owens, son of the above, killed at Gallipoli, August 1915. So he wasn't one of the first in, but he was what they used to call the fair dinkum, the ones who knew what was coming and still signed up. And lest we forget, this wrought iron, or cast iron rather, framings over the graves was quite popular 100 odd years ago, maybe a bit longer, 1890s. We'll work our way over to what looks like a cenotaph up there. Another one that went too early, Janet, wife of J.H. Ellis, John Henry it turns out, passed in 1909 at the age of 40, and he lived on till 1953. Yeah. Not a good year to be in your middle age as a woman. Margaret Eugenie Ballantyne, age 36. Her husband lived on till 43. Nothing quite like going through an old cemetery to realise how much the life expectancy's improved. See there, George passed away at the age of 65. His good lady wife went on to 101 years. And looks like his brother went on to 91. So it was always a lottery, it always is, I guess. These ones I find touching. So Catherine passed away on the 23rd of December 1901, and her husband bundied off 26th of May 1902, less than 6 months later. And their daughter only lasted another 10 years on that. Their son lived to be 69 though, so you know. And they had another daughter that made it to 73. It's just so scattered and random. Member of the 2nd 9th Armoured Regiment, Second World War trooper. Lived till 1961, but still was only 56 when he passed. All those wars and poor diet had effects on people. No age on this one. Neil Lillico. Next door we have Valerie Lillico. And next to Valerie, her husband Andrew. Now I mention this because there's a Lillico beach over towards Devonport. I just wondered what the connection is. If you know, drop a comment. A long gap there between the passing of the good lady wife and the husband, 1918 to 1944. It's a long time to be in that sort of mourning. Here's another one of these smaller plots. I can't really, yes I can, age 7. Ellen Drew, I believe. Well, also there's 7 children between 1874 and 1891. Working our way around the cenotaph, we'll get to it before we go. It stretches out to the corner there. Another touching tragedy, I guess. Kids would have lost both their parents within a year, but he passed in October 1913 and she in June 1914. So Gwendolyn Gladys Kane died as a 4.5-year-old, which was really sad. But her parents both lived to be 93. It's a long time to carry that sort of pain. Deceased is deceased, but it is nice to have them all together. Joseph, Sarah, Elizabeth and Martha, all in the same plot. Nice old couple together. Another one of the sad ones. 3-year-old daughter and then a 17-year-old son. Not all of the grave markers have survived as well as you would have liked, I guess, when they were put in. Joseph had a fair run, 98 years. Now this one tells a tale. Margaret passed away on the 7th of May 1924 at 43 years of age, and Daphne, daughter of the above, on the 10th of May 1924, aged 9 years. Very strange that they went within a few days of each other. Story here. Robert Lancaster, 74 years old when he passed. Lost a daughter who was aged 5. Another daughter who was aged 5, and then a son killed at Messines Ridge in Flanders during the First World War. His wife lived on till 1935. Oh, the pain some people have lived with. Quite a monumental stone here. Probably one of the tallest in the cemetery. Bella and James Hall. Okay, so I know there was child mortality. So Charles and Rachel, they lived to a fair age. Lost a daughter on the 2nd of the 10th, 1898, aged 10. when their son was killed in action on 4th of September 1916 as a 25-year-old. You just wonder. I think it's time to approach the cenotaph. So we have the Rising Sun hat badge. This face we have memory of Walter Henry William Rosethorn, Sergeant in the Penguin Light Horse, 12th Battalion AIF. It's a real shame the light horse were dismounted and made to fight on foot in France. But 7th of April 1930, he was 35. Not actually a cenotaph, it's just a memorial to a fallen sergeant. These are other family members that are buried here as well. It appear to be the good sergeant's parents. Quite an impressive memorial. Let's go around and see if I can get the lone pine in with it. There you go. The good Sergeant Rosethorn, lone pine in the background, and then Penguin Beach behind him. Nice place to stop.